Hi everyone, it's Lauren, the New Hampshire Stitcher. I am back with Flosstube number 14, and with this Flosstube I am officially marking 1 year of making videos, which is kind of crazy to me. I can't believe it's already been a year. So first things first, just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has been watching me for one video, 14 plus videos, because I had a couple extras in there, or people who are just joining in today. And yeah, like I said, it's kind of crazy that it's already been a year, but hopefully we have another full year of Flosstube ahead of us. I have kind of a lot to show you today. So it's been, I think it's technically been 5 or 6 weeks since I filmed. The last thing I filmed was my whip parade. Prior to that, it had been 3 weeks since the previous Floss Miss video. I filmed 3 holiday-esque videos in the month of December. I ended up not filming a 4th and final one, and I also didn't end up filming a 2023 finish parade. At this point, I think that ship has probably sailed. It's already February, so I probably won't film one. Maybe throughout the course of this year, I'll show finishes that I did last year, obviously if they get into frames or things like that. So we shall see. I haven't had a ton going on in January, mostly just working and kind of hibernating. The weather has been pretty crummy in New Hampshire. It is deceiving that I'm filming today because it is so nice out today. I think it's going to be 40 and it's very sunny. This is the first sunny day we've had in, I think, close to 3 weeks. There's been a couple days where we had a peak of sun, but not really a full day. So after I film and edit and hopefully get this uploading, I'm definitely going to spend some time outside walking the dog in the woods. We have a path that leads kind of here on this side of our neighbor's house. They let us use the access trail to the woods, so that is what I'll be doing later. And yeah, I stitched quite a bit in January. I think I said that. But first things first, I have a very special fully finished object to show you, which feels appropriate for my 1 year anniversary. So let me grab that. Okay. So this is my finish of Consider the Lilies. And I finished this last September, I believe. And it's been waiting in the closet to be framed ever since, as are many of my projects. But my parents actually gave me a gift card for Michael's for my birthday. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I know my mom watches these videos. And I thought it'd be the perfect opportunity to get this framed. So a couple of weeks ago, I went to Michael's, sorry about the ring light, and chose a frame. And I absolutely love it. You can see the edges. It's like a very rustic looking frame. The tone is sort of a golden brown, which really goes well with some of the furniture in my other rooms. I think this is going to get put up in our bedroom once we have the house repainted, which is going to be happening hopefully later this month. So Consider the Lilies I stitched this on 40 count vintage straw flower by Lakeside Linen. I used all of the called for threads, and ever since I finished it, I don't know where to put this, it's so big. Ever since I finished it, I have been enabling other people to start it. So Jordan Tattooed Stitcher, I'm looking at you. I want to see your start. And I think that if you're interested in this at all, I've said it before, I couldn't recommend it more. This is proof to me that I can stitch very big things. It's just one stitch at a time. I think Beth Twist even says that in the chart for this, that, you know, enjoy every stitch and you'll finish it one stitch at a time. And I did. So there it is again. Consider the Lilies by Heartstring Samplery. So good way to start the video. Also in the month of January, I had 2 finishes, and the first one is a Patreon piece by Hello from Liz Matthews. This is Sun Soaked, and I believe this was a Patreon piece last May. I stitched this on the called for linen, which is 40 count Cypress by Fiber on a Whim. And I used all of the called for DMC threads. So this is definitely a small. The way that I approached this one was actually using Caroline from Evertotes. She was saying, you know, do 10 minutes a day on a whip that isn't getting a lot of love, just to kind of keep it going. So this was the one that I chose for that, and 10 minutes a day, I ended up finishing this in, I think it took like a couple of weeks because I had maybe half left to do, and now it's done and it's off my whip list. So that is my first finish. And my other finish, I wonder if I can show this without the board. Let's see. My other finish is the, unfortunately, out of print Quaker Garden by Blackbird Designs. This was lent to me by another stitcher, so now that I have finished it, I can get that back in the mail to her. And here is my finish. This is stitched on 40 count Tuscan by Color and Cotton. It was in their Fabric of the Month Club a couple of years ago. And I did use all of the called for over dyed threads. I had so much fun stitching this. It was really a pretty quick stitch. I think I stitched it in 2 sessions, meaning 3 or 4 days at a time. I just couldn't put it down whenever I was working on it. And if you can find this on the secondhand market, I do highly recommend stitching it. So as you can see inside that sort of laurel wreath, I personalized, and I also have the year underneath the flower pot on the left hand side. So absolutely loved this one. My other finish of January. I am approaching another finish, which you'll see in my whips. I would really like to, I think I said this in my whip parade video, I'm not going to set really firm goals for myself. I had 24 whips in my whip parade. I immediately started 4 things for New Year's. You'll also see those today. Brought me up to 28. And then since then, I've been starting to finish things. I haven't actually started anything since New Year's, which it's only 4 weeks, but hey, a win is a win. And I would like to get my whips a little bit lower. So I'm not going to set a rule, but I'm loosely saying I want to finish 2 or 3 things before I start something. So I have finished 2 things. I'm not currently planning on starting anything, but Nashville Needlework Market is in a month. So I have a feeling I will likely let myself start something coming out of that. Next up are my whips. I worked on 4 projects in addition to Sun Soaked and Quaker Garden. The first one is in this project bag I got on Etsy by Harriet and Frankie. I don't know if they still make bags. And it is Summer Quaker by Leela's Studio. Many of you probably familiar with this one. If not from watching me, then certainly from watching others. Samantha, the Huga Stitcher, has a stitch along for this. I think it's Live in the Sunshine Sale, I believe is what it's called. And these are the stitching with the DMC. This one I'm stitching on 40 count Renaissance by Color and Cotton. And here's where I'm at. Maybe I will use the board. Here's where I'm at. So since you last saw this, I did pretty much the entire right hand side. So prior to, or when I filmed my whip parade, I had done the left band, the left side, the top, and then I think I had done maybe part of the pink flowers, the little crawfish, and the starfish. So I came all the way down the right after I did that. And this was a whip go call for me. So I likely would not have pulled this out in January if not for whip go. And the goal that I set myself was to complete the right side of the border, including that little diagonal row indicating like the break in the border. And I finished. So next time I take this out, I will probably do the bottom border and finish filling in the little green waves on the interior border. And after that, it's time for some pretty full coverage stitching in the middle. I would loosely say that I would really love to have this done for summer. And I think that that is possible because this is a piece that does call to me fairly often. I mean, I've done a significant amount since I started it. So once I finish that bottom band, I think I'll probably try to break up the center into, you know, 3 or 4 sections and then just chip away at it. So one more time, Summer Quaker by Leela Studio and stitched on 40 count Renaissance by Color and Cotton with all of the called for DMC. There we have it. The next project I pulled out kind of on a whim. I was looking through my whip basket after I finished my whip go goal for Summer Quaker, and I ended up pulling out Autumn at Hawk Run Hollow, which this is a bag by Stitchy Notions by Lisa. If you've watched me, you know she's one of my favorites. So Autumn at Hawk Run Hollow looks like this in full. Many people have stitched it, are stitching it. What I'm doing is the full thing. So I think a lot of people take out the 2 Halloween blocks and or maybe the Thanksgiving blocks. I think some people just want it to be truly autumn, not a holiday specific piece. I will be doing all of it, theoretically. And I'm stitching this on 40 count tephra from Cedar River Linen. And I'm using the Vicky Clayton silk conversion. So what you see here are the somewhat messy silks that comprise the header and the first block. So there were more than 50 silks for this, and I didn't want to have them all on tags until they really needed to be. And my current plan with the silks is that whenever I finish a block, I'm going to store away nicely the silks that are not being used in the next block, just so that they can stay as nice as possible. As I said, I'm stitching this on 40 count Cedar River Linen tephra. She just had a release of some new colors, and I ordered a couple, so I'm excited to have those come in. Let's get this on the board. Here's where I'm at. This is now half of the header completely done, plus that is an oxymoron. It's half of the header is done plus the border. And then I started on the first block. I did the border, the cat, I outlined the house. I have filled in about, I would say 75% of the roof, and then and the words, and I started those window panes. And this, I had no idea how dense these blocks were. Like in my head, I understood that they were a lot of stitches, but until I sat down and started doing this, I really was like fooling myself into thinking, I thought that I could finish an entire block in 4 or 5 days. No, I cannot. My friend Erin Makes on Instagram actually is almost finished with a block in, I think, 5 days. She was stitching over 1,000 stitches a day. So go look at her progress, but all I got done was this. So next time I take this out, I will finish the window panes and start filling in the bricks of the house. And I think what I would like to finish this year is at minimum 3 blocks, maybe 4 blocks, if I can feel motivated enough to do that. I can see myself pulling this out throughout the next few months, just the way that I did here, maybe doing 1/3 of a block. And then as we get closer to fall, I have a feeling I'll be more motivated to work on it. An inch. So there it is, my progress on Autumn at Hawk Run Hollow by Carriage House Samplings. And now it's gonna take me a while to fold up this bed sheet, so you're probably gonna see some editing. Next up, we have Marianne Kopp. This is a bag from Sheba Designs. I've showed it before. And Marianne Kopp was my other Whip Go goal for January. So as a refresher, this is what she looks like. This is by With Thy Needle and Thread. And when you saw this in my whip parade, I had started the border, the top left border, and filled in a few of the flowers and started on the motifs. What I decided for my whip go goal, I should say too, when I pulled this out, it was the very end of January. I knew that I needed to do it as a whip go goal. I was not feeling this when I originally pulled it out. And I sat myself down and I said, just pick a small goal for this one. Just work on it, see how you feel. Well, I started working on it, and then I decided I wanted to do more of the border because it's a very finicky border. And if I did 90% of this piece and then the border didn't meet up, we would have a problem. So I did the whole border. See if you can do a little bit of a better view here. I did the whole border. I came down the left side and then went all the way around, did the border, and then I added in the strange little deer motif and the small flower motifs around him. And then I did 3 of the border flowers, which are the blue one, the yellow one, and then the red one on the left side there. I don't think I set the fabric yet. This is 46 count overcast from Cedar River Linen, and I'm using all of the called for threads. So this is how big this piece is on 46 count. It is much bigger than I remembered or anticipated when I did the border. When I sat down and started working on the border, I was getting toward the bottom. I'm like, how are we not turning a corner yet? And then I finally did and was moving the Q-snap around. And when I took it off the Q-snap, when the border did meet up on the first go, I was kind of shocked at how big it is. So this will be a large frame when it is eventually done, but I love it. Here it is up close. So it also, because it's 46 count, it doesn't look like a ton of stitching, but each of the border flowers with the accompanying 2 leaves is at least a couple hundred stitches. I would say like 250 stitches for each of those. So I'm very pleased with my progress. And I'm also excited because now that I have the border done, I think I'm going to prioritize the bottom border flowers in the next couple of times that I work on this, so that I can cut off this bottom and have a pretty nice hunk of 46 count overcast left over for something else down the road. So that is Marianne Kopp. That means that I completed both of my whip go goals for January, and I will talk at the end of the video about what I have coming up for February. So the last piece that I worked on in January is Garden Sampler by Carriage House Samplings, and I started this last summer, after I saw Stephanie Webb working on it. She was stitching this, I think she might still be working on it, on like a mint colored fabric, and I loved the idea of doing it on a color. So I picked a light blue fabric from Fox and Rabbit called Ocean Air, and this is where I'm at. So I'm currently working on this. If it looks basically done to you, that is because it is almost done. I am currently working on the Z. So I came down A through L, moved over, and then I'm going up to Z. And I haven't done this bottom hill ground sort of section. I do plan on doing it. Originally, I wasn't sure how much of it I would do. I think I'm going to do the full like dirt ground area because I think it would be nice to have it in a frame where there's really no margin at the bottom, like have the frame right here, and then have a little bit of margin at the top so it looks more like sky. So since the last time I picked this up, or since what you saw in the whip parade, I had done through T. So I did the U. Honestly, I'm not sure what this is supposed to represent. It looks like an umbrella, but also bamboo. If you know, please tell me. This is V for violet, W for watermelon, X for extra large pumpkin. I've had a couple people ask me why there's an XL in the pumpkin. I think that there was no real vegetation or animal that had started with an X, so we got an extra large pumpkin. Y, this is another one I'm not really sure what it's supposed to stand for. I want to say yarrow. I don't know how you pronounce that plant, but I'm not totally sure. And Z at the top that I'm currently working on is definitely a zinnia. So that is what I've been doing. I am using let me see if I can pull it out. I'm using a conversion, a beautiful conversion from Roxy Floss Co. And if you are planning on stitching Garden Sampler and you're interested in this conversion, they don't have it on the website in their conversions list, but if you email them, they should be able to pull it together for you. I think other people have had success with that. But I did make some color changes. So let's see, what did I change? I changed the sun. It originally called for like a brown on the rays. I made that orange. The tulips were, I think, orange. I made them red. And then the yarrow, or whatever it actually is, was a slightly different color as well. So happy to share any of my changes with people if they like them. I'm really hoping for a finish on this one. If not today, then maybe tomorrow. I don't usually get a lot of stitching done on filming days, so we shall see. Okay, now we have a bunch of new starts. So I feel like this is kind of turning into a mini whip parade because I worked on so many things. I was looking at my list earlier and I'm showing you 12 projects today. I currently have a total of 26 projects. So I guess it's just a bonus whip parade after 1 month. The first new start that I had is, so this was kind of an impromptu new start. I will put a picture of it here because I only have the digital version. This is Strawberry Birds by the Blue Flower. I had seen this on her website for a while. I'd been thinking about buying it back and forth. And on New Year's Eve, or the day before maybe, I decided to purchase the PDF and kit it up myself with things that I already had in my stash. So what I ended up doing was creating my own conversion with Roxy Floss threads, which I think came out really nice. It's currently missing a couple of threads that are in Garden Sampler. So as soon as I finish Garden Sampler, I'll pull those back in here. But in general, I love the threads for this. I think it's a fun palette. And the piece of fabric that I pulled is a leftover piece of 40 count Vanilla Latte by Be Stitch Me, which I had previously stitched Pink Sparrow Sampler on. And because this color palette I think would go really nicely with Pink Sparrow Sampler, I decided to stitch it on the same fabric and hang them eventually, well, Pink Sparrow Sampler's on my wall, but hang them eventually next to each other. All of my New Year starts, I just want to say this, all of my New Year starts are pretty small because 2 of them, this one and another one, I only worked on New Year's Eve or day, depending on when I started it. So make of that what you will, but this is my start on Strawberry Birds. It's just the bottom of a bird's tail. I am really excited to get back to this one. I think I might work on it in February. It's not a huge piece. I think it's maybe 150 or 160 by the same. So once I put some more work into it than, 2 hours, I think I'll get good progress. So if you happen to be stitching Strawberry Birds and you're interested in the conversion, I can write these out somewhere, but for the moment, I won't bore everyone else with a list of threads. All right. And this is currently sharing a bag with Coffee and Eggs by the Artsy Housewife. One of my other goals this year is to stop having bag buddies, and I'm trying to accomplish that, but not by buying more bags, but by having less projects. So far so good. I think I've eliminated a couple of bag buddies. The next start that I had, let's go with my other pitiful start, and then we'll get into my legitimate starts. This is even worse than the previous one, so it's kind of shameful. And if I'm being honest, I think I regret starting 4 things on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, because I didn't really get to devote time to them. And then throughout the month of January, I had Whip Go, and I wanted to put in time on Hawk Run Hollow, and I wanted to finish Quaker Garden. So time just got away from me and I didn't get back to these, but live and learn, and I'm figuring out what works for me. This is Autumn is Joyful by Leela Studio, and I'm stitching this on 40 count, I think 40 count, Light Mocha by Zweigert, which Leela Studio had recommended, or if the model was stitched on Winter Brew, I didn't have any winter brew. She had said light mocha was a good substitute, so that is what I went with. So light mocha with the called for DMC. Prepare yourself. This is my start. Yep. Half of a leaf. This. I don't think I've ever had such a paltry start, but it's fine. I'm fine. I will get back to it. I love this project, and I think it's going to get a lot more work later this year. I shouldn't apologize for a small amount of progress. It's my projects. It is what it is, but that one I am a little bit embarrassed of. Let's put that back. Okay, let's get into some starts, the other two, with some more legitimate progress, shall we say. So the first one is A Study in Nature by the Artsy Housewife. I love this so much. As soon as it came out, I knew I wanted it, and I knew I wanted to stitch it on a dark fabric. The red is really pretty, but I don't have a ton of red in my house, so I wanted to go with something in the spirit of red, but that would match more of the tones in my house. So what I ended up with is Grandpa's Shop Rag by Lap and Loops. I got this on Etsy. I think I got it from Hollisans Create. And here's my progress on A Study in Nature. I think I do have a hanging thread, but what I did on this one was the top left motif. As you can see, there are four of them, and then the huge moth. So I did the top left motif, and then I did the body of the moth. Again, this is 40 count fabric, and it is very dark, so this is a daytime only stitch, and even then I need pretty strong lighting and a good attention span. So this was a couple of days worth of work, and I'm pretty pleased with the progress on this. Next time I pick it up, I'm going to try to do a chunk of wing, and we'll see where we get. I didn't say what threads I'm using. I am using the silks. They are beautiful. They're all Dinky Dyes silks. And last I checked, they're all available on 123 Stitch. So if you did want to stitch this, Dinky Dyes are definitely like a very soft, shiny silk. I'm really enjoying stitching with them. Again, that's not the project. That's not the project. Here's my progress. My last start was likely my most ambitious start. So I started Pandemic by Long Dog Samplers, and I'll put a picture of it here if you're not familiar with it. I am stitching this with my friends Erin Makes, and Caitlin, Cross Stitch Kate, and we each have a different fabric and thread combination, so definitely encourage you to check them out. I went with 40 count platinum for this project, and what I am using to stitch it is this lovely hank of, I think it's called Dirty Martini by Roxy Floss Co. It is this lovely sort of dirty, mossy green color. And I started this, it was the last thing that I started for New Year's, and then therefore was the thing I stitched the most on, because I stitched on it, I think, for 3 days after that. I believe I worked on this for a total of 4 days, and I ended up doing about 2,500 stitches. Normally I don't count my stitches, but I am using Markup RXP for this because I tried to stitch Pandemic in the past with a paper chart and I just couldn't do it. So here's my progress. This is about half of the first page, and the border on the left side I think completes the first page, and then the border on the top obviously does not. So when I get back to this in February, my goal will be to complete probably the first page. So that is my start on Pandemic by Long Dog Samplers, and I think that this will be, the hope is that it will be maybe like a 3-year project, maybe 4, depending on how long it takes. But I was going through all of my whips the other day. I was just curious sort of the distribution of sizes within my whips, and I think I had something like 2 that I would consider small, 8 medium, something similar for large, and then like 5 extra large whips, including this Hawkhorn Hollow 3-thing sampler. So maybe 3 years is being generous, but we'll find out. Those are all of my finishes, whips, and starts, and we can move on to purchases, which is going to be a very short section because since the beginning of December, I have only purchased one thing. So I enrolled myself in the Linty Stitches Endangered Species Club. This is the first chart, and it is the Moor leopard. And so if you're part of the club, I believe there's a PDF version, or there's the kitted version, which is the chart, which is a really nicely made chart, and then 4 skeins of thread. So this month there are 2 skeins of Classic Colorworks Timber, which is this like greeny brown foresty color, as you might expect, and then 2 skeins of Chickpea. And I believe, or I assume, Chickpea is the leopard and Timber is the sort of cliff he's laying on. Since I typically stitch on 40 count, I am unlikely to need 2 skeins of each one, so I will definitely have leftovers, which is never a bad thing. But that is all I bought since the last time you saw me, or even earlier than the last time you saw me. Until this week, I did make a few purchases. They have not come yet, so you'll see those in my next video. And one thing that I had not wrapped up from Flossmas was my giveaways. So at the time, I did 3 giveaways, 1 per Flossmas video. The first winner did contact me. I still need to get her package in the mail. I was hoping to do them all at the same time, and then it took me clearly a really long time to film this video. So the second week's video, the person unfortunately never reached out to me. And then the third week, I never ended up drawing a winner because I never did a 4th Flosstube video. So here we are. I'm going to redraw the second week because I never heard from that person. And then I want to give everyone once again the opportunity to win the third week's video because I think I posted right before Christmas and I get the sense that probably not as many people were watching Flosstube at that point. So the second week's drawing was for Artsy Housewife Lovely Dove. And at the time it was just for that one. I'm actually going to add another chart to this one, which is the Blue Flower Dream. I was going through my charts the other day and I just am not, this is very pretty. I'm just not going to stitch it, I don't think. And if I am going to stitch it, I'll buy the PDF one day, but I'm going to add this, and this will be the first giveaway for today. We're going to just use the word dove. Again, I think that's what I used in the last video. We'll use the word dove, but this time you'll get this second chart as well. And then the other one, this was a Christmas pack, which is maybe less appealing to people now that Christmas is over, but there's always next year. So this was Teresa Kogut, Poinsettia Place, La Di Da, Be Merry All, Stone Street Stitchworks, Peace and Goodwill. And for this one, let's use the word Merry, M-E-R-R-Y, Merry. All the usual things for giveaways, be 18, be a subscriber if you want to, and the regular stuff. I will draw hopefully sooner than another 7 weeks from now. I'm going to try to do another video in February. So if you're interested in either of those, put them below. This is open to US and Canada. Again, Dove, Mary. So there we have it. And in terms of my plans, I'm just keeping it pretty open aside from the whip go that I'm doing. So I'll toss a picture of my whip go up next to me. My whip go calls for February were Kathy Barrick's Ocean Blue Stocking Sampler. So I'm doing the sampler version of this. My second whip go call for February is Winter Moon, Plum Street Samplers Winter Moon. And I'll put a picture of that as well. So I don't know when in February I'm going to work on these. I haven't set goals as part of my WIP Go. I've just set the projects. So what I'm doing is as I take out a project, I look at it, I see where I'm at, I think about where I'd like to be, and I set the goal while I'm actually working on the project. It feels more flexible and more achievable for me. Aside from that, in February, I would like to get back to Pandemic, as I said. I really want to get back to Three Things Sampler because that's another behemoth and I haven't touched it since September. And then I also am starting to think about spring a little bit. So, you know, I'm in New England. We do have snow right now, some grass, but I'm already thinking about less gloomy days. And one of the things that I ordered is the Drawn Thread Welcome Spring. So you may have seen me do fall, Christmas, and Halloween. So I ordered spring and summer. So those are coming. And then the other thing I was thinking about, which is a potential start, would be Pansy Patch Quilts and Stitchery, Betsy's Spring Basket. I bought this last year. I never started it. And I think if I do some seasonal starts, I would like them to be things that I would theoretically start and finish in the time frame that I'm like doing them. So in other words, I don't want to just continually increase my WIP count with these. I only want to pick things that I think I will finish in that season. So for this spring upcoming season, the things I'm thinking about are the Welcome Sign and this. Also, I just finished last year the With Thy Needle and Thread Seasons of the Heart 4 seasons, and I would like to finish the Blue Flower ones this year, but I have already done spring. So I feel like I have an opening in my busy schedule for a spring small. And that is what I'm thinking. So I have been doing a little bit of knitting. The first thing, my bags are tipping over. The first thing is my Snarkometer shawl. I started this last fall. I'm having a hard time remembering where you last saw this. I think you might have seen the teal lace, and then I did this section above it, which is sort of braided bubble rose. So it's really hard to show knitting on camera, but it's an alternating row of these dark green sort of raised rows with the teal. As you can see, I have a bunch of stitch markers back on because the next section is lace again, similar to what we have in the white. And I already messed up. I did 2 rows of it. I realized I messed it up and I got mad and put it away. And I don't think I've touched it in probably close to a month because the next thing I need to do is either fix my mistake, which I am not good at tinking, or I have to figure out a way to go around my mistake, which I am also not very good at this point. So that is my first knitting project. The other one you haven't seen in a while. This is an old standby. This is my half and half triangle wrap by Pearl Soho. And the reason I'm showing this to you, even though it's kind of boring, is because I reached the halfway point. And as you can kind of see, I have switched colors. So what does that look like? I have a full half of my square done, big triangle. You can't even really see how big it is because there's so many stitches on the needle, but I'm very glad to have switched over. A reminder for anyone who hasn't seen this in previous videos, haven't showed it in, I don't think I've shown this in at least 3 or 4 months. This is at all short rows. So going back and forth, I have been doing German short rows. I didn't really want to do regular short rows, and I found a tutorial on YouTube with German short rows and a slipped stitch edge just to make the edge look a little cleaner. So I finally reached the halfway point. I resolved all of the short row stitches, and now I am stitching with my second color. So the yarns that I'm using are both from Stress Knits yarn. I don't think she's currently dyeing, so unfortunately these are not available, but it is a fingering weight yarn. I have this copper color on one side, and then this speckled cream will be my second side. So that is a pretty exciting sort of progress marker for me, and I will get back to this pretty soon. I've been mostly stitching recently, and normally I would maybe knit a little bit in bed at night, but I've been reading quite a bit, so have not done as much of that. What else did I want to talk about today? I think that's everything. As I said, I have been reading quite a bit. I don't think I really want to do a whole book talk in this video. I've probably read like 6 or 7 books since the last time I filmed, and that feels like kind of a lot. So I am currently reading the 3rd book in the Crescent City trilogy by Sarah J. Maas, and that came out earlier this week. So maybe in my next video, I will talk about all 3 of them, because I actually only read the first 2 in the month before the 3rd and final book in the trilogy came out. I think that's everything I have to say today. This is, I think, going to be a shorter video than I anticipated because it was very whip heavy, but I was talking pretty quickly. If you have any questions for me, please leave them below. If you're interested in those giveaways, please enter them below. And I hope everyone has a wonderful month. Bye.